On April 8, 2014, Windows XP will reach end of support. Official updates will no longer be provided for it. There are a few options. The most obvious is to upgrade Windows XP to either Windows 7 or 8, or you can buy a Mac and use the OS X operating system. But these options cost a lot of money. What if you want to keep using your old hardware and use an operating system that's still updated and costs close to nothing? That's where Linux comes in. Hi, my name is Eric, and in this video I'm going to show you how to take a USB drive and put a live Linux USB distribution in it so you can boot off of it and try using Linux without installing it to your hard drive. Okay, so the first step that we need to do is to choose a Linux distribution to use for our bootable live CD, or I mean live USB. So head on over to distrowatch.com, which is basically a good resource for everything Linux and BSD. So if we scroll down the page, um, we will see hit a page hit ranking column to the right, and as of today, the famous or the first ranking distribution is Mint, which has close to 4,000 hits per day, followed by Ubuntu, Debian, Mageia, and Fedora. So anyway, we can click on the Mint distribution. It will take us to DistroWatch's page that shows the details about Linux Mint. So we scroll down, so we will see the details about the Linux Mint distribution, and to to download it, we need to go to the home page, which you can do by clicking on the home page entry in the Linux Mint summary table, or by directly going to linuxmint.com. Okay, the next step, when we get to the Linux Mint website, is to click on the download link, or just mouse over the download link and then choose the all versions link. So it will load and take us to the list of Linux Mint releases. Now, so far there have been 16 versions released, and you can see from the list that the latest is version 16. But let's take note of the status column for this list, and as you can see, the latest version of Linux Mint is supported until July 2014, which is just a couple of months away. Also, the other two most recent versions, version 15 and 14, are expired or almost expiring. So these three versions are not practical for us to use at this time of this recording. So I have decided to go with Linux Mint 13 because it is a long-term support release and it is supported until April 2017. And it is also a very good distro to use because it was released on April 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So that means it will run on some old hardware, because I'm expecting that if you're using Windows XP up to this point, then you must be using it on an older computer. And I think the version 13 is good enough for that sort of hardware. So anyway, let's click the version number to go to the downloads page or to go to the editions for Linux Mint 13 Maya. So there are a lot of choices for you, from Cinnamon to KDE, from Cinnamon 32-bit, KDE 32-bit, Mate 32-bit, or XFCE 32-bit. I'm emphasizing on 32-bit because we'll be using a 32-bit uh, flavor, because we will be using an older hardware. Again, as I am assuming you are using an older hardware because you're still running Windows XP. So anyway, of the choices here, I would prefer actually to go with XFCE because it's one of the lightest on the hardware requirements. So given that I am assuming again that you are on an old hardware, using the 32-bit XFCE version of Linux Mint 13 is the way to go. So click on that and we will be taken to the download page of the XFCE 32-bit Linux Mint 13 ISO or disk image. So note that this has a size of 811 MB. So you will need at least 1 gigabyte USB flash disk to contain this ISO image. Of course, you can use your favorite torrent client, BitTorrent client, to download it, or you can choose from the many mirrors that have this ISO image for downloading it directly. So the rule of thumb here is to choose a continent or country which is closer to you. So I've already downloaded this to my computer and I won't be downloading it again. And then the third step is to get an application that can convert the or that can transfer the downloaded ISO image of the Linux distribution we're going to use into a flash memory stick or the USB drive. So one of the famous applications for this sort of thing is Pendrive Linux. I haven't used this in a long time because I've been using Linux exclusively for years now, but um, we'll be using the UMI or the Universal Multi-Boot Installer to create our bootable USB flash disk. So click on the link and this will take you to the page where you can read up on the UMI details. So basically, this specific tool will not only create a bootable USB drive, but also help in creating a multi-system bootable USB flash drive. So that means that if you have a rather big USB flash drive, like like let's say you have a 32 gig USB flash drive and you want to install, let's say, 5 Linux distributions in it, or 5 live Linux distributions in it. You can do that using this tool. But for the purposes of this tutorial or how-to, I'm just going to put one, which is Linux Mint 13. So here is the sample boot menu that comes up when when running the Yumi's interface with your computer, and the download link is just you just click on this link on this link below. Just click on this link so you'll download it. Of course, you can check for the details of the supported distros and scroll down a bit. You will see that Linux Mint 3264-bit is supported. So the distribution I have chosen to use for this video is supported. So once you download that, you can start creating your pen drive or your bootable USB drive. So I've also downloaded this myself, and in the next part I will show you how to create your bootable disk. Okay, so now you can see that I have downloaded the Linux Mint XFCE DVD 32-bit ISO and the Yumi multi-boot installer into my documents folder, and I will now show you how to create your bootable flash drive. So the first thing we need to do is start the Yumi application by double clicking on it, then choose run if asked if you want to run the software. So you can read through the license agreement before proceeding, but if you have already read this before, so just click I agree, and then you are taken to the um, GUI for creating your USB drive. So before doing this, you should you should have put your USB drive to your computer, and you can check that you have one by the removable disk entry in your My Computer folder. So anyway, I have only one, and I will choose that drive here in the step 1. Select the drive letter of your USB device portion. Okay, so you can have options here in the right side, but I will leave them unticked because I know I have just formatted my E drive and it is blank currently. So step 2 is to select a distribution to put on your disk drive or your flash disk, and we'll select the drop down and look for Linux Mint, and here it is. So click Linux Mint, and do not, I think if you click the download link it will download it for you, but in our case we have already downloaded it. So we move on to step 3, which is pending browse to your Linux Mint ISO. So just click the browse button to the right and go to your Linux Mint ISO folder. In my case it's in my documents, so just click open. And for step 4, set a persistent file size for storing changes, which is optional, so we'll not do anything with this. Okay, so now we have selected the distribution we'd like to put into our USB device. So let's click the create button, and Yumi setup dialog box comes up. So basically it's telling you a summary of the actions that Yumi is ready to perform. So the first is to create the syslinux MBR on E. So then create multi-boot label on E, and then install Linux Mint on E. So it's asking you if you're absolutely positive drive E is your USB device, because If it's not, then all data contained in that drive will be destroyed. So always double check, triple check if it is the correct device. So I know that my USB device is E, so now I can click on the yes button to perform the actions. So it will run and it will create the things that it needs on your drive. So it will take about a few minutes or a minute or two. So just patiently wait for it to complete. Okay, so you can read the status of what's going on in the black text area of the application. So let's just wait for this to finish. In my computer, it will take about 10 minutes or so, hopefully lesser. So yeah, let's wait for this. Okay, so I cut to the part of the video where it's copying the image to the USB drive, and now it's doing something that I don't understand, but I think it's expanding the ISO image into the USB drive. So this will take again another minute or two, and let's just wait for this to complete. Okay, so it's almost done extracting. So I've again fast forwarded it or cut parts so the video won't take so long. Okay, so now it's all finished and process is complete. Just click the next button, and if it will ask you if you'd like to add more ISOs distros now, since we only want to use one at the moment, we'll click the no, and then you'll be greeted with the Yumi has completed the installation. So now you have to click finish to complete it. Okay, so that's how the Yumi installer creates your bootable live disk. In the next part, we will try and test if our bootable disk flash disk is working or not. Okay, so I'm now testing it on my computer. So on the boot screen, you have to press the key to choose the boot device. In my case, it's F8. So I choose the USB drive that I created, press enter, and then the Yumi multi-boot USB screen appears. Go to Linux distributions, and now we see the Linux Mint 13 XFCE DVD 32-bit. Select that, press enter, and wait for the system to boot. Okay, so now Linux Mint is booting. We'll just wait for it for a few seconds more. Okay, so the whole live session is now loaded. So as you can see, it's not a very radical change from the Windows XP user experience. You have icons in your desktop. Then you have the menu, which acts as the start button. And also there are the applications and categories. So you can check here all the applications that come with Linux Mint 13, which are quite a lot. So you have your multimedia players, your internet browsers, your Office suite, and some system tools. So there are also launchers to click beside the menu button, and to the far right of the of the screen there's the volume control and the networking applet as well as the time. So you can play around in this environment. You'll be guaranteed no changes to your computer. And once you feel comfortable with it and want to commit it to your computer, just double click on the install Linux Mint icon. This will bring up the graphical installer that will guide you through the installation. Okay, so I will not proceed any further, and I hope that I have helped you some way in testing the Linux distribution or in testing Linux Mint, which may lead to your choosing to use it over Windows XP and other proprietary operating systems. So that's it for me. And if you have any questions, just leave some comments below and I will try to answer. So anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in my future videos.